Imagine a company so powerful that its name literally means photography. For over a century, if you wanted to capture a memory, you had to use Kodak. In 1996, Kodak was the absolute king of the world. They controlled 90% of film sales in the United States. 90%. They were worth over $30 billion and employed more than 140,000 people. But in 2012, this unstoppable empire filed for bankruptcy. How does a monopoly that huge just disappear? Everyone assumes they were simply crushed by the digital camera revolution. But there is a massive twist in this story. Kodak actually invented the digital camera. Yes, you heard that right. They invented the exact technology that killed them. To understand this fatal mistake, we have to go back to how Kodak made its money. Kodak used a brilliant strategy called the razor and blades business model. They sold the cameras extremely cheap, sometimes even at a loss. Because they knew you would have to buy their film over and over again, for the rest of your life. And not just film. You had to pay Kodak to develop the photos. You had to buy Kodak photo paper. It was an ecosystem of continuous, massive profits. They were printing money. But in 1975, a young Kodak engineer named Steve Sasson walked into his boss's office. He had built a bizarre, heavy device that looked like a toaster mixed with a lens. It was the world's very first digital camera. It recorded a black and white image onto a cassette tape. It took 23 seconds to capture one photo. Sasson presented his brilliant invention to the executives, expecting a standing ovation. Instead, the Kodak executives were horrified. A camera that doesn't use film? Are you crazy? Their entire multi-billion-dollar empire relied on people buying film and chemicals. The executives told Sasson, "That's cute. But don't tell anyone about it." They literally took the most important invention in modern photography and hid it in a closet. Kodak suffered from extreme corporate blindness. They were addicted to their film profits. For the next 20 years, Kodak secretly continued to research digital technology, but refused to sell it. They wanted to delay the digital future for as long as possible to protect their film business. In 1981, Sony released a digital camera. Kodak panicked and did a secret internal study. The study concluded that digital photography would definitely replace film, but it would take 10 years. Kodak had a massive 10-year window to transition their company. But they did almost nothing. They couldn't bring themselves to cannibalize their own cash cow. When the late 90s arrived, the digital tsunami finally hit the world. Competitors like Canon, Nikon, and Sony flooded the market with consumer digital cameras. Kodak woke up in a panic. They finally started making digital cameras too. Surprisingly, Kodak's early digital cameras were actually really good. They sold millions of them. But there was a deadly problem. They were losing $60 on every digital camera they sold. Because they still thought the razor and blades model would work. They thought people would buy the digital camera, and then print their digital photos using Kodak machines. They fundamentally misunderstood the digital revolution. In the digital age, people didn't want to print photos. They wanted to share them on screens. The magical profit margin of chemical film vanished into thin air overnight. Then, the final nail in the coffin arrived. The smartphone. When phones started coming with incredible cameras built right in, the dedicated digital camera market collapsed. Kodak was caught in a brutal trap. They had destroyed their film business for digital. And now smartphones were destroying their digital business. The company went into a desperate tailspin. They hired a new CEO to save them. He fired thousands of workers, sold off highly profitable divisions, and sued other companies for patent infringement. It was like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. In 2012, after 131 years of defining photography for the human race, Kodak surrendered. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. A monopoly completely shattered by its own invention. The tragedy of Kodak is the ultimate warning for every successful company. If you refuse to cannibalize your own business, someone else will do it for you. Kodak didn't fail because they lacked technology. They had the technology before anyone else. They failed because their leadership lacked the courage to let go of the past. Today, we take billions of digital photos every single day. And we do it using technology that was secretly locked in a Kodak closet for 20 years. If you want to know how the McDonald's brothers lost their entire empire to a milkshake salesman, hit that subscribe button for the next video.